Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story follows Max, a millionaire whose life changes forever with a simple hug from a young girl. What starts as a mistaken hug leads to heartwarming moments, unexpected adventures, and a true understanding of love and happiness. Stay tuned to witness Max's incredible transformation and see how one small act of kindness can change everything. Let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Once upon a time in a big city lived a man named Max. Max was a millionaire who owned many fancy cars, a giant house, and even his own private jet. He seemed to have everything one could ever want. But deep down, Max felt lonely. He had lots of money, but he didn't have any real friends. One sunny afternoon, Max decided to take a walk in the park. He was deep in thought when suddenly a little girl named Lucy ran towards him. She had mistaken Max for her older brother, who was wearing a similar jacket. Without thinking, Lucy wrapped her arms around Max and gave him a big hug. Max was surprised at first, but then he smiled. It had been a long time since someone had hugged him. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were my brother." Lucy apologized, looking embarrassed. Max laughed softly. "That's okay, Lucy. It was the best hug I've had in years." Lucy looked up at Max with a big smile. "Really? You look like someone who could use a friend. Do you want to play with me?" Max nodded eagerly. "I'd love to, Lucy." They spent the afternoon playing games, flying kites, and laughing together. Max felt happier than he had in a long time. Lucy's simple joy and kindness warmed his heart. As the sun began to set, Max walked Lucy back to her home. "Thank you for today, Lucy. You have no idea how much this meant to me." "You're welcome, Max. You can come play with me anytime," Lucy said, waving goodbye. Max returned to his big house, but something had changed. He realized that all the money in the world couldn't buy the happiness he had felt today. He knew he wanted to spend more time with Lucy and her family, to learn from their kindness and warmth. Max couldn't stop thinking about Lucy and the joy she had brought into his life. The next day, he decided to visit her and her family. He knocked on their door and was greeted by Lucy's mother, Mrs. Johnson. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson. My name is Max. I met Lucy in the park yesterday, and I wanted to thank her for spending time with me. She really brightened my day," Max said with a warm smile. Mrs. Johnson smiled back. "Lucy has a gift for making people happy. Come in, Max. Would you like to join us for dinner?" Max hesitated for a moment, but then accepted the invitation. As he stepped inside the modest home, he felt a sense of warmth and love that he hadn't experienced in his own mansion. During dinner, Max got to know Lucy's family. They were kind, humble, and full of love for each other. Max felt a connection with them that he had never felt with anyone else. He shared stories about his life and listened to their tales of everyday adventures. As the evening went on, Max realized that he wanted to be a part of their lives. He wanted to help them and learn from them. He wanted to be more than just a lonely millionaire. Max started visiting Lucy and her family regularly. He played with Lucy in the park, helped Mrs. Johnson with chores, and even taught Lucy's little brother Tommy how to ride a bike. Max felt more alive and connected than ever before. One day, while they were all having a picnic in the park, Lucy asked Max, "Why do you come to see us so often, Max?" Max looked at Lucy and her family, feeling a warmth in his heart. "Because you all have something very special. You have love, kindness, and a sense of togetherness that I have been missing in my life. You make me feel like I belong." Lucy's mother smiled and said, "Max, you're always welcome here. You've become a part of our family." Max felt tears in his eyes. He had finally found the true meaning of happiness and love. He knew that this was just the beginning of his heartwarming journey, and he couldn't wait to see where it would lead him next. As Max continued to spend time with Lucy and her family, he felt a newfound sense of purpose. He wanted to help them in any way he could. One day he came up with an idea that he hoped would make a difference in their lives. Max approached Mrs. Johnson with his plan. "Mrs. Johnson, I've been thinking. Your family has shown me so much kindness and love. I want to give back. How would you feel about me setting up a small fund to help with Lucy and Tommy's education?" Mrs. Johnson's eyes widened in surprise. "Max, that's incredibly generous of you, but we can't accept such a big gift." Max smiled reassuringly. "Please, Mrs. Johnson, it's the least I can do. Lucy and Tommy have so much potential, and I want to see them thrive." After much discussion, Mrs. Johnson agreed to accept the fund. Max was thrilled to be able to support Lucy and Tommy's dreams. He knew that education was the key to a better future for them. As the weeks went by, Max became even more involved in the Johnson family's lives. He helped Lucy with her school projects, taught Tommy how to build model airplanes, and even cooked dinner with Mrs. Johnson on weekends. The once lonely millionaire now felt like he was part of a loving family. One evening, as they were all gathered around the dinner table, Lucy looked at Max and said, "Max, you're like the big brother I never had. We're so lucky to have you in our lives." Max felt a lump in his throat. "And I'm lucky to have you all in mine. You've taught me the true meaning of love and happiness." Just then there was a knock at the door. Mrs. Johnson got up to answer it, and to everyone's surprise, it was Mr. Johnson, who had been working overseas for the past year. The family rushed to embrace him, and Max watched with a smile as they reunited. Mr. Johnson turned to Max and said, "I've heard so much about you, Max. Thank you for taking care of my family while I was away." Max nodded, feeling a sense of pride and belonging. "It's been an honor, Mr. Johnson. Your family has become my family too." As they all sat down to enjoy their meal together, Max realized that his journey to true love had brought him not only a new family, but also a deeper understanding of what really mattered in life. And he knew that this was just the beginning of many more heartwarming adventures to come. Max found himself visiting the Johnson family even more frequently. The connection he felt with them grew stronger each day. They had become a significant part of his life, and he cherished every moment spent with them. One weekend, Max decided to take the entire Johnson family on a surprise trip to the countryside. He thought it would be a perfect way for Mr. Johnson to bond with his family after being away for so long. They packed their bags and set off on an adventure, filled with excitement and anticipation. As they arrived at a charming cottage nestled among rolling hills and blooming flowers, the Johnson family couldn't believe their eyes. "This place is beautiful, Max," Lucy exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. Max smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "I thought you all deserved a little getaway. Let's make some wonderful memories together." Over the next few days, they explored the countryside, went on nature hikes, had picnics by the lake, and shared stories around a cozy campfire. Max felt a sense of peace and contentment that he had never experienced before. One evening, as they sat by the campfire roasting marshmallows, Mr. Johnson turned to Max and said, "Max, you've brought so much joy and love into our lives. We're grateful to have you as part of our family." Max felt a warmth in his heart. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You've all shown me the true meaning of family and love. I feel so lucky to have met you." Just then Lucy spoke up, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Max, can we go on another adventure tomorrow? Maybe we can explore the old forest nearby? Max chuckled. Of course, Lucy. We'll have a fantastic time exploring the forest. Max realized that his journey to true love and happiness was far from over. He looked forward to many more adventures with the Johnson family and the lessons they would teach him about life, love, and what truly mattered. And so Max's heartwarming journey continued, filled with love, friendship, and endless possibilities. The next morning, the Johnson family and Max set off to explore the old forest. Lucy was especially excited, skipping ahead and pointing out interesting plants and animals along the way. Tommy tried to keep up with her, laughing and asking Max about everything they saw. They stumbled upon a beautiful clearing with a small, sparkling stream running through it. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a magical glow over the entire scene. Wow, this place is amazing, Lucy exclaimed, her eyes wide with wonder. Max smiled, feeling a sense of peace in this serene spot. It really is, Lucy. Let's set up a little picnic here and enjoy the beauty of nature. They laid out a blanket and shared some snacks while listening to the soothing sounds of the stream. Max felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for moments like these. He had discovered a new kind of wealth, one that couldn't be measured by money but by the joy and love shared with others. Tommy suddenly spotted something shiny near the stream. Look, Max! What's that? Max walked over to investigate and found an old rusted metal box partially buried in the ground. Curiosity piqued, he carefully opened it, revealing a collection of old coins, a faded journal, and a few trinkets. Wow, it's like a treasure chest, Lucy said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Max examined the items, realizing they must have belonged to someone who had lived in the area long ago. It looks like it, Lucy. This journal might tell us more about the person who buried it. They spent the afternoon reading the journal, which belonged to a young girl who had lived in the countryside many years ago. Her entries were filled with tales of adventure, friendship, and dreams of exploring the world. Max felt a deep connection to her story, as it reminded him of his own journey to find true happiness. They packed up their things and headed back to the cottage. Max couldn't stop thinking about the journal and the girl who had written it. He wondered what had happened to her and if she had ever found the happiness she had dreamed of. Back at the cottage, Max and the Johnson family shared their discoveries with each other, feeling even more connected through the shared adventure. Max knew that his journey with the Johnsons was far from over, and he couldn't wait to see where their next adventure would take them. The next day, as Max and the Johnson family were having breakfast at the cottage, Lucy couldn't stop talking about the journal they had found. Max, do you think we can find out more about the girl who wrote the journal? She asked with wide-eyed excitement. Max nodded thoughtfully. I think it's a great idea, Lucy. Maybe we can visit the local library and see if they have any records or information about her. After breakfast, they all headed to the nearby town and visited the library. The librarian, Mrs. Thompson, was intrigued by their discovery and offered to help them search through the archives. They spent hours sifting through old newspapers, records, and photographs, hoping to find clues about the mysterious girl. Finally, they stumbled upon an old newspaper article that mentioned a girl named Clara who had lived in the countryside many years ago. The article described her as adventurous and kind-hearted, always helping others in need. Max and the Johnsons felt a sense of connection to Clara and her story. Mrs. Thompson looked at them with a smile. Clara's story is well known in this town. She was a beloved member of the community, and her kindness touched many lives. It's wonderful that you found her journal. Max felt inspired by Clara's story and knew that he wanted to continue spreading kindness and love, just like she had. He turned to the Johnson family and said, "Let's honor Clara's memory by helping others, just like she did. We can make a difference in our own way." The Johnson family agreed, and together with Max, they started planning various ways to give back to the community. They organized food drives, helped out at local shelters, and even started a small scholarship fund for underprivileged children. As they worked together to make a positive impact, Max felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He realized that true happiness came from helping others and sharing love and kindness. The bond between Max and the Johnson family grew even stronger, and they became known in the community as a force for good. One evening, as they gathered around the dinner table, Lucy looked at Max and said, "Max, Clara would be so proud of what we're doing. We're making the world a better place, just like she did." Max smiled, feeling a warmth in his heart. "You're right, Lucy, and we're just getting started. There's so much more we can do together." They became even more beloved by the townspeople. They organized fun events like charity bake sales and community cleanup days, where everyone could come together and make a difference. Max felt a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment in his new role as a community helper. One day, while they were planning a big charity event, Max received a surprising letter. It was from a lawyer representing Clara's estate. The lawyer explained that Clara had left behind a will, and Max had been named as a beneficiary due to his efforts to keep her legacy of kindness alive. Max was stunned. He had never met Clara, but her story had touched his heart deeply. The lawyer invited Max to visit Clara's old farmhouse, which had been preserved as a historical site. Intrigued, Max and the Johnson family decided to take a trip to the farmhouse to learn more about Clara's life. When they arrived at the charming old farmhouse, they were greeted by the caretaker, Mr. Peterson. He welcomed them warmly and showed them around the property. The farmhouse was filled with memorabilia from Clara's life, old photographs, letters, and personal items that told the story of her incredible journey. As Max explored the farmhouse, he felt a deep connection to Clara. He realized that her spirit of kindness and generosity had been passed on to him and the Johnson family. Mr. Peterson handed Max a small, ornate box that had belonged to Clara. Inside, Max found a locket with Clara's picture and a letter addressed to "the kind-hearted soul who carries on my legacy." Max opened the letter and read Clara's heartfelt words. She wrote about her love for the countryside, her dreams of helping others, and her hope that her legacy of kindness would live on through those who came after her. Max felt a lump in his throat as he read Clara's words, feeling honored to be a part of her story. As they left the farmhouse, Max knew that he wanted to continue Clara's mission of spreading kindness and love. He looked at the Johnson family and said, "Clara's story has inspired me even more. Let's keep making a difference in the lives of others, just like she did." The Johnson family agreed, and together they continued their efforts to bring joy and hope to those around them. Max felt a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment, knowing that he was carrying on Clara's legacy in his own unique way. They found themselves becoming closer than ever. Their small acts of kindness grew into a wave of positive change that touched the lives of many in the community. People began to come together, inspired by their example, and the town became a place filled with love and support. One day, as Max was walking through the park where he had first met Lucy, he reflected on his journey. He realized how much his life had changed since that fateful day when a mistaken hug had led him to discover true love and happiness. He had found a family, a purpose, and a sense of belonging that he had never known before. Max looked around at the smiling faces of the townspeople, many of whom he had come to know and care for deeply. He felt a sense of pride and fulfillment, knowing that he had made a difference in their lives. As he continued his walk, he saw Lucy and Tommy playing with other children, their laughter filling the air. Mrs. Johnson was chatting with friends, and Mr. Johnson was helping an elderly neighbor with her groceries. Max knew that they had all become a part of something greater than themselves, a community united by love and kindness. Max took a deep breath and smiled. He knew that his heartwarming journey had reached a beautiful conclusion, but the lessons he had learned and the love he had found would stay with him forever. He felt grateful for the mistaken hug that had changed his life and led him to discover the true meaning of happiness. And so Max's story came to an end, but the legacy of kindness and love he had helped create would live on in the hearts of those he had touched. The once lonely millionaire had found his true riches in the warmth and love of a community that would always remember his heartwarming journey. Thank you for joining us on this Heartline journey. Remember, even the smallest act of kindness can change lives. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe